My experience over a number of years in East Germany during the last Cold War was mainly limited to low-level activity. The fact that the traffic regulators and sentries were often posted in situ to remain there for days without proper food and provisions and extremely limited information is very resonant of what has happened in Ukraine, with Russian mobilized personnel having little idea of what they're doing or supposed to do. I've been struck by how little has changed with regards to management of information and lack of independent thought. There was some level of independence of command at battalion commander level. I remember some time in East Germany when my vehicle had been captured and we were surrounded by T-80 battle tanks and unable to move. I spent several hours discussing the problem with a battalion commander in his WAZ Jeep. We had been observing local area movements of the latest Soviet air defense equipment and were being hounded constantly. We thought it was because the kit was so new and being protected, but it turned out to be because the battalion commanders in the Halle area of Germany in the Officers Club were having a competition to see how many mission vehicles they could arrest. Classic motivation for the soldiers. So, as ever, you need to dig in order to find the basis of true reality. I want to show an example of true leadership, which may fly against Western wisdom overall. In the mid-90s, when I was working as the only foreigner at Moscow Cellular Communications in Moscow, the general director was a man who'd formerly been head of the Soviet ministry. He was technically trained, knowledgeable of how to do business in Russia, and commanded respect and awe from the employees, all in good measure. As the First Chechen War was winding down in 1996, the company was tasked with rebuilding a base station in Grozny to allow the power ministries responsible for the rebuild of the city to communicate back to Moscow. He summoned his technical director and told him to put together a team and equipment to be flown down there by the Russian Air Force. The technical director refused to accept the task due to the dangerous nature of the assignment. The general director, instead of trying to coerce him in any way, accepted the refusal, took him off the team, took charge, and flew down himself to Grozny. Nothing more was said. And from my bird's eye view of the event, it was an example of very strong leadership. During the 2000s, when I had spent a year working with an international team negotiating to invest in a consolidated group of mobile businesses, we were due to sign the agreement the following day. The key negotiators on their side and ourselves were putting the finishing touches to agreements ready for signature. In the morning, we sat opposite them and it became very clear that everything had changed and the subordinates of the boss looked quite ashen. It turned out that on that morning, he had decided on a gut instinct not to sign. It was fairly typical that top management seemed to be able to change its mind overnight. We've seen this happen with Putin on the political level, but we should note that this is not a trait unique to him, but really to Russian management style. So, don't think that anything is new here. We have to learn and understand how they think overall if we're to have a chance of bringing some form of movement in the years ahead. I say years because this is hot now and it's going to take a long time to resolve. Over the last 10 years, I've seen many instances of meetings being cancelled or playing the waiting game because a manager has been summoned to a meeting at no notice with his or her boss. This one-over-one leadership style plays absolute havoc with day-to-day business activities. It means that everyone is playing catch-up all the time, that people dither on making decisions, and therefore little time to implement tasks. Using the URL of that famous millennial business lastminute.com, you understand that the decision-making process reduces considerably the implementation time available to carry out tasks.